Well, welcome once again. Welcome back to all my alchemists. Thank you guys for being here today. I am your host, Dominique Rashad. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am sitting with Mr. Victor George Harvey, CEO, founder, all the things of Victor George Spirits. Man, it is an absolute honor and a privilege to have you here today. Welcome, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me over here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So I want to get into all the things Victor George Harvey related, but you're so much more complex than that name would suggest. You go by the name of, or you used to go by the name of Taipan at one point.
Right.
So we'll get into that.
Yeah, we're going back.
We're going way back. We're going way back. But you also got another moniker, the brokest millionaire.
That's correct.
That's complex right there in and of itself. Well, I want to get into that as well.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But Victor George Spirits, um, I think I may have come to know about you a couple years ago. We may have some mutual connections. Do you know Travis? Travis Mack?
I do.
Yeah. So I think I may have tasted one of the vodkas a couple years back, and it was absolutely fire. So I remember um, your spirits before I even got a chance to know you. I knew about your vodka.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I
We
did.
doing something right.
We're doing something right. We're making connections and doing the right things. So I want to get into the alchemy of all the things, right? Before we do that, though, I want to get into your story, obviously, but I've even heard you talk about, like, with bourbon in particular, every bourbon has a good story.
Right.
Every producer of bourbon also has a good story. But let's start with the story of Victor George Spirits. We'll do the vodka as well as the Fort Mose bourbon. If you want to get into that right now.
Okay. So I've obviously been in the industry over 20 years.
Hmm.
Um, when I decided to get back into it, which was actually inspired by my daughter, she said that she didn't know exactly what I did back then when she was, much younger, but she did remember reaping some of the rewards of that.
Okay.
And when she asked me what I did, she was in college at the time, and so she basically talked me into getting back into it. And I'm glad I did. Something I've always enjoyed,
Yeah.
but I knew this time around we wanted to do it a little bit different.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the first time around, we just had a line of vodkas.
Uh-huh.
And this time I knew I wanted to get into some bourbons and whiskeys and some other things because, the industry had changed so much.
Yeah. Yeah. So the story though of Fort Mose, that is one that I did some digging on after, in preparation for this conversation. But I want you to explain to the people the story, the history behind the label Fort Mose, or the brand you're calling Fort Mose. How did that name come about? Where does it come from? Why are we using that versus some other name? What makes it
Well,
different?
like you said earlier, every great bourbon has a great story, right? So
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted something that related to Black people and something that related to Florida.
Mm.
And so I started researching it, and then I came across the story, and I couldn't believe that, it had never been told because I know when my kids were young, the fourth grade field trip for Florida students was St. Augustine.
Okay.
And when they would come back and, I'd ask them questions about how it was and what did
Right.
you learn and this, that, and the other, nothing about Fort Mose. And I hadn't even heard of it. So when I came across it, started reading and researching, and I said, this is it.
Right.
And, the quick story is, in 1726, 38 slaves escaped Charleston, South Carolina. Instead of going north, they came south.
Right.
They wanted to get to Spanish Florida. The King of Spain said you could stay if you fight with us alongside the Indians and convert to Catholicism was part of that.
Mm.
And they got there and they agreed to do it. So the floodgates opened up for slaves to escape from all over the South through the Carolinas, through Jacksonville and the St.
This is through the Underground Railroad.
It was the first Underground Railroad.
The first Underground
Yeah,
Railroad.
it went south, not north.
Not no interesting.
Yeah, so when all the slave catchers were going north, the slaves, with the assistance of the Indians, were coming down through what's called the Gullah Geechee Corridor through the Carolinas, through Jacksonville and the St. Augustine. And they got enough to form a militia. So
Right.
they joined up with the Spanish and the Indians, and they fought the war, and they won.
Now, had they heard that there was better opportunities going south? What triggered that
Yes,
decision
they heard
for them?
that. So when those first 38 slaves got there, the word spread that you could seek refuge and freedom in Fort Mose. If you agreed to
But you had
join
to-
this
right,
cause.
right.
And, back then, the word had to spread underground.
Absolutely.
And they got enough to form a militia. They joined up with the Spanish and the Indians, and they fought the war, and they won. And as a reward, the governor of Florida gave them their own town called Fort Mose.
Wow.
And in 1738, it became the first town in America where black people could live free. And what's interesting is we're in this 250-year celebration of
Sure.
America,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But black people were living free 80 years before that.
Yeah.
Right. So I just felt like that was a story that needed to be told. And a great way to tell it is over a nice glass of bourbon and whiskey.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So, I mean, wow, what a story. So, trust comes to mind when I think about that. Like, if I'm a slave, I'm escaping slavery, and I hear through the Underground Railroad that I could seek refuge and freedom if I go south. How do I know? Right. So, I want to get into trust because I think that as I researched you and got into your story a little bit, some of the things that have helped you is trust and relationships. On the flip side of that, that doesn't always work out.
Right.
I want to get into that as well.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? Because it doesn't always, particularly for black people, it doesn't always work out
Right.
the way that we are told that it's going to work out. Fort Mose, now these freed slaves, they built this town or they built themselves.
Yeah. So the Indians were hunters, right? And the formerly enslaved were farmers. And so they knew how to grow crops, they knew how to build, they knew how to weld, they knew how to do all those things. So collectively, Fort Mose was built along with the Spanish.
Right.
And our first year out with the bourbon, I'm proud to say that we donated a percentage of our sales back to the Fort Mose Historical Society to help reconstruct a replica of the original fort.
Wow.
In November of 2024, that fort opened. So it's a magical place. I encourage everybody to go visit.
Yeah. So I mean, they do the whole reenactment of
all of that,
of the war and everything.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah. Interesting. You know, it's funny when I was doing research on it as well, and I saw that they do the whole reenactment thing. I got a little bit scared, to be honest. And I'll tell you what spooked me out. Janelle Monáe, shout out Janelle Monáe. She's got a movie. It's a couple years old now. It's called Antebellum, right? And she was essentially, I think she was a marketing executive or something like that. And she was captured. She was kidnapped in the car after a celebration. She was receiving an award, and she was kidnapped and taken, drugged and taken into custody. And then the movie shifts from a modern era where she was doing this into this slavery era, right? And she's a slave all of a sudden. Now the audience doesn't know what's going on. I mean, but it is all the slavery. And you see Janelle Monáe's character going through slavery. Well, it turns out that reenactment, they were taking it seriously. And so
check that out.
Yeah, check that out. It's called Antebellum when you get a chance. So anyway, that story again, trust is another thing that I want to dig into a little bit more. Fort Mose, alchemy for me. So it's a science, not an easy one to define, not something that you go to school for and pick up. But for you as a developer of spirits, what goes into making a vodka? Or what goes into making a bourbon? Are you sitting with chemists, right, and coming up with these different flavors? How does this all magically come together into something that people can enjoy and taste?
Well, excuse me, when we first got into it 20 some years ago, we worked with a chemist, but as things have evolved, to be honest, it's not as hard as people think. I mean, you definitely have to understand the science of putting it all together and understand your levels and all the different ingredients and components that go into creating the formula for your spirit. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what you and whoever else you're talking about trust, that you trust thinks tastes good.
Right? That's it.
And once you get that, then you got everything else, in place. You bottle it, and then you put it out to the consumers, and you hope that they enjoy it.
Right. You have a distillery, though. You're not just bottling something and slapping a label on it.
Right. So we bought Palm Beach Distillery in 2022, and I'm glad to say that we outgrew it. And so we had to close that one, and so now we have a bottling partner in Tampa that we work with because now that we're a national brand, a national company, we need more capacity. So right now we're in the midst of building a new one right over here on Sistrunk.
Love it.
So we're just looking to get that started. Hopefully, it's been a long process.
Yeah.
But just stay in the course, and we're at the 99-yard line on getting that done. So
Wow.
that's pretty exciting.
That's pretty exciting. I'm going to come back to that in a little while, if you don't mind. I want to shift gears though just a little bit and get into the story of Victor George Harvey. Excuse me. I want to get into your
I
story.
got 3 first names.
You got
man.
3 first. I'm Dominique Rashad, so
Okay.
I got 2. And my middle name's Alexander. So yeah, I got a couple first names. I'm like that as well. They say you can't trust a man with more than one first name. Trust keeps coming up. That's a theme. But no, wanted to get into your story a little bit more. As I told you, I'm a hip hop fan,
Mhm.
right? So I did my research and I did some digging, and I found Ty Pan.
All right.
I found Ty Pan. So that was your rap name back in the day,
Right.
right? And I found the album and I went through the entire album. Before I get into the album, why the name Ty Pan? Was that based on the book or?
So
there's a
it
book.
was actually I watched a movie
Uh-huh.
back when I was in college, and I did read the book, and
Okay.
I watched a movie called The Noble House.
The Noble House.
And
Okay.
I started off before I was Taipan, I was MC Boss, right?
See, boss.
Because I
Okay.
always knew like that's what I wanted to be, like
Right.
And but then the whole MC thing started getting played out, and I'm like,
Right.
you know what, let me come up with something creative. So based on that movie, the Taipan was the ruler of the noble house, which means like he was the boss, he was like the CEO, he was
Right,
this,
right,
he was
right.
that.
Okay.
And I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
That's
So
dope.
from here on out, I'm Taipan.
I'm Ty Pan.
So yeah.
Ty Pan. I love it. Now, when we get into the album a little bit, so I got into the album, man, and this is back in the 90s,
Correct. Like
right?
the mid 90s, yeah.
Mid 90s, golden era hip hop, 94, 95,
Right.
somewhere around that
Yeah.
time frame. I consider that golden era hip hop. But as you can see, I'm old enough to know I go back to the 70s and 80s with hip hop. But I got into it and I told you, I'm like, yo, I hear some Pac from an influence standpoint.
Right.
Was that
Yeah,
accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think, there was so many great rappers out there, but Pac was, was a big storyteller, and
Yeah.
as was Big. I mean, it's
Sure.
kind of 2 different styles, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think that I probably did, emulate a little bit more on that side than anybody else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. So the name of the album, uh, The Rise, The Fall, The Rise. Man, that's almost prophetic
Right.
in a sense. When I think about your career, I shouldn't really call it a career, but your journey, it's almost extremely prophetic because, well, I'll let you explain a little bit more as we get deeper into the discussion. But I believe in speaking things into existence, right? It's almost like the universe has different versions of us waiting for us to decide where we're gonna go. And so the rise, the fall, the rise, looking back on that now, were you predicting your life? Do you feel like you were telling your story then, or were you telling your story forevermore? Did you even think that far ahead? How did that even come about? The rise, the fall, the
No,
rise.
I think that, when I came up with that name for it, I was really telling the story of our community,
Mm,
of the
okay.
neighborhoods
Of the neighborhood,
that we know.
Columbus,
we grew
Ohio.
up in any neighborhood, any black neighborhood in the United States, right?
sure.
It was like, we if you look back all the way to the '60s and '70s and '80s, I mean, and even before that, it was always a constant struggle. It was always something
doubt.
that we had to, as they say, grow from the concrete, right?
Mhm.
So, the hook on that record was was starting all over. And
Mhm.
so when I, was listening to records, trying to, 'cause back then, we were sampling and doing
Yeah,
different
yeah.
things, and I heard that, and I was like, this is it. I said,
That's
I'm gonna
it.
make a record around this,
Yeah.
and tell a story that not just relates to me and people in my personal life, but that can be appreciated and tell the story for so many of us that
Right.
have had those ups and downs in life. Now, who would have known that it would have been the story of my personal life,
Right.
30 years later?
Right.
That is surreal.
That's surreal. It feels surreal. Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll get into the details of that rise, the fall, the rise again from your personal perspective. But looking back on it now, what does that title mean to you now as we sit here today?
It means exactly what it meant back
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
It means, you know, you gotta, no matter what you're going through, you gotta get up and you got to go,
gotta go.
and there's winners and losers in life,
Hell yeah.
and we just got to win.
Oh yeah, yeah. No doubt, no doubt. You just have to win. You went to Bowling Green State University, and you
Correct.
played ball there, right?
Yeah.
Basketball or football?
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
You played basketball. So, well, talk about what was that like for you as you were an athlete?
For me, it was just one thing, like at that time, nobody in my neighborhood went to college. Nobody in my family went to college. It was like, looking at what everybody else was doing. And I was like, I ain't doing this. There's got to be more out there
Right.
than what I see.
Right.
And it was an opportunity. I didn't know much about it. I didn't even know what a major was, and I was talking to one of my really good friends, and I said, hey, man, I said, I don't even know how I graduated, bro. I was like,
Right.
my freshman year, my grade point average was a 1.66. And he was like,
Bro, hold on. 1.66.
Hey, bro, he said, you did better than me. I said, what was yours?
Come on now.
He said, I had a 0.0. He was like, he said, man, I was here to go pro, and that was it.
They just taking your money at that point.
Well, we didn't have to pay,
See, okay, well,
but
yeah.
you weren't taught
right
what education was all about. You didn't know how to write a check.
Right.
You didn't know what credit was.
Hell no.
All these things that they don't teach you. You kind of had to learn it on the fly.
Right.
So one of my professors kind of took me under his wing, and he was like, most people aren't going to make it big time in the league, so you're special. And he was like, you're going to be somebody. And that's
Really?
when I kind of decided, I wanted to get into business. So I started studying business in undergrad, and I actually started a couple of businesses when I was in college. I didn't make no money, but it was still
That's okay.
what I was doing. But I would say one of the things I'm most proud of is that my name to this day is on the wall at the College of Business, because I helped write the entrepreneurship program back then, and now there's entrepreneurship major at the business school.
Are you
at
serious?
Bowling Green. Yeah.
So did you actually declare a major? Eventually,
Yeah.
you did declare a major.
Yeah.
Okay.
I graduated with a business degree.
You graduated with
Yeah,
business.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'd go back to my days in college, and you're 100% correct. We weren't necessarily taught about credit. They would just show up, and put our table outside of the student union office or the where we would eat lunch, and there'd be people signing us up for credit cards and whatnot. I'm like, I don't have a job. They're like, no, fill it out. Fill it out. It's okay.
Yeah.
I fill the motherfucker out.
Yeah.
I start getting credit cards in the mail, but I'm balling, right? So I think.
So that was not to cut you off, that was my first business. It was called Harvey and Associates. And so I did the same thing, and I got a Radio Shack card, if you remember that.
I do.
And it was like $500. So I drove to Radio Shack, and back then, like the pull-out radios, those was like the hot thing, and power boosters, and a couple of nice speakers. And so I went in there, and I said, this is what I would like to get. And I gave him the little temporary plastic card. And she rang it up, and she was like, gave me the receipt and said, okay, thank you. And I said, well, how much money do I owe you? And she was like, nothing. You already paid for it. I said, well, what?
Right.
And she said, that's your credit card. And I was like, so you're telling me that if I walk out of here without giving you no money, I ain't going to jail?
You do see I'm black, right?
Yeah. She was like, no, you just paid for it.
You just paid for it.
Man, I got back to campus, held a little meeting. I said, man, you ain't gonna believe this. Everything is free.
Everything.
All you gotta do is get this little piece of plastic.
Everything is free. You just need this plastic.
Yeah, you ain't gotta pay it back. So I started my own consulting company.
Get out of here.
Filling out applications, charging guys $5, $10 on how to get these credit cards. And then it went from that to Discover Card to everything else, bro. I had a secretary, I had everything.
So you charged them to fill out the application?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah, man.
Born hustler. Born hustler, right? Paid in full. Eric B. and Rakim, shout them out. Wow. That's interesting. No, that's interesting. I mean, we don't necessarily, a lot of times in the black community, I'm like you, I was the first one in my family to, to go and graduate college. But we are usually pushed there to get a job. Go so you can get a job, get a career. but you were an athlete, you were a rapper, you went on to own hotels, right?
Yeah, I
So
mean,
none of that was what you were being taught, though,
no,
per se. Entrepreneurship, I'm
right.
speaking of. How did you know to make that change, not a career? When did you start pursuing as a passion or as a purpose, your purpose? How did that happen?
For me, if you think about it, the synergy between all of that is all entertainment,
Okay.
right? And
Okay.
so that was something I've always enjoyed. And when I got into like investing in real estate and things like that, I wasn't that interested in doing what everybody else was doing, like
Right.
single families and all of that. I said I want to do something bigger. And once
Okay.
again, it was like there wasn't very many people that looked like me
No.
in the hotel space. And so I went to a convention, uh, a NABHOOD convention, which is a Association for Black Hotel Owners and
Okay.
Developers, and it was in Miami
I was
actually.
here. Okay.
Yeah, and the first one I went to, and met some really inspiring people, um, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna get into this,
Hmm.
and so I started investing in that, and had a couple of partners, and we did some stuff, and we had
Buying hotels.
I was the first black hotel owner in Ohio, and
Wow.
so that was pretty exciting, and then
So you had a hotel in Ohio, where you're
yeah,
from, and Miami as
I
well.
had one in Ohio. I had one here. I had one in Negril, Jamaica.
Wow.
So I had this, this grand vision of just expanding, this hotel empire, and and then the whole real estate market tanked out, and so that's when I decided, okay, it's time to make another move.
This is early
Right?
2000s.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
It's
about
like early 2000s to like
mm,
almost getting into the mid
okay,
2000s. But
2008
yeah,
when the
yeah.
crash
I've
happened.
always tried to pride myself on having a vision.
Yeah.
Like not what is here right now, but what's right around the corner. Like what's
Right.
next,
Right.
right? What's the next big
What's the
thing?
next big thing?
And I just
Yeah.
need a little piece of it.
What's
That's
the
all.
next big credit card opportunity? Where
Right.
I
Well, I
can
ain't getting
ship it?
into that no
Yeah.
more. But yeah.
But yeah, wow, the next big thing. Interesting. So you met some folks, and that to me, when I looked at your story, seemed very interesting, because there's a level of relationship building in any successful organization. It's always built on relationships, right?
100%.
It's always built on relationships. The money and all that kind of stuff will come, but it has to start somewhere, and you have to begin with trust. So you go and you meet these people, and they're obviously, I guess, a little bit more advanced than you. They know things about the industry of real estate and stuff that you're learning from them. So obviously, you're put in a position where you're going to trust them, right? But am I correct? One of your business partners uh, ended up leaving you high and dry with
Well, yes. To
a
to
bunch
to,
of
to answer that question is yes, but um, if you want to really get into the context of what that business partner looked like, it was only on paper. Like
mm,
I barely even knew the guy, right?
okay.
I hired their law firm to do some work for me,
Hmm.
and ended up meeting him, and I was already in the industry. Like we were already out, we were already in the marketplace, and we were already rolling.
Gotcha.
Um, so I had pretty much everything before I even met the guy. I had the big house, I had the yacht, I had all
You
of that.
had all of that
Yeah.
before you even met him.
And so it was a thing where you say, okay, if we want to, not if, but if this is an opportunity to scale and
Sure.
to do some of those things,
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
and I was just blinded and bamboozled like everybody else. But
No doubt.
fortunately for me, um, I never invested. Well, that's one thing my dad, rest in peace, he always told me. He said, son, he said, be glad you're black. And I was like, why? He said, because they don't let black people in on stuff like that.
Right.
Right. And I
Right.
was like, that's good. Right.
That's good.
So, I was just as surprised as everybody else. Um, but the one thing that it did, because we had that contractual relationship, it cost me everything.
Mhm.
Right. And so we lost everything
Right.
behind that.
We lost
And
everything.
so that was a difficult time, but it was like, you got to figure it out.
Right. Right. You got to figure it out. I mean, what hurt more? I mean, losing everything hurt more, or did putting your faith or trust in someone
No, I
hurt
mean,
more?
I would have to say neither, because I didn't
Okay.
come from anything. So,
Mm.
that was
Again,
one
like your
thing.
dad
Yeah, I've
said,
never been
you're
like
black.
that.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
never been into material
Yeah.
things, and you work hard, and some of the things you're able to get and do, is a reward because
Hmm.
you work hard, right?
Right.
In terms of hurt because like I felt betrayed or something, like I said, I barely even knew the guy. There were people out there that got really hurt. There was people
Yeah.
that committed suicide. There was people that, went to prison. There was,
Right.
people that got really, really hurt behind
Sure.
it. So the personal situation had really nothing to do with me. It didn't really affect me at all.
Mm.
The most challenging part was, asking yourself, did you let your family down, and you got young kids that depend on you and that's all they know.
Right.
And so, when I do this thing, not to jump ahead,
No, no,
but
no.
when I came up with this idea and concept of the brokest millionaire, one of the things I say is that there's a difference between being broke, like financially,
Mhm.
and being broken, right? And I never allowed myself to become broken,
Right.
right? So it was trying times, but I just knew like if I just stayed the course and I'm a Christian by faith, so it's like just let's figure it out. How are we going to get out of this situation?
Right.
What's the solution to the problem?
Right.
And my focus was that all I ever wanted to do was get them to college, right? And so by keeping that vision in front of me, I knew what it took to do that, and whatever sacrifices needed to be made to get out of the situation that we was in, and I was willing to do that.
Wow. Wow. So you say we lost everything. You mean you and your
Me
children?
and my kids.
You-
That's
Yeah, you and your kids. And you had at the time
two.
you had two.
Yeah,
Boy and a girl or
boy and a girl.
boy and a girl.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're
Wow.
both mega successful right now.
They're mega
Yeah,
successful
so I'm
right
proud
now.
of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, but I mean, but at that time, look, as fathers, right? I'm a father as well, black father, right? Raised by a black father. We're taught to provide and protect. You know what I mean? That's what we do, right? We provide and we protect. We don't have time to get depressed, right? We don't have time to get down on ourselves. We got to keep going.
Right.
But in the midst of all of that, again, having everything, I mean, you're living in you got property and, you're living large. In the midst of that, do you ever get a sense for how difficult it might be to explain to your children, hey, we gotta, we're losing everything? Or did you even have to explain that to them? Because one of the things that sometimes we fear is that our children, we don't want our children to grow up like we grew up. We want our children to have better than
Right.
us.
Well,
When they can't, how do we feel?
yeah. Well, my kids, I mean, they know now, but they didn't. They damn sure didn't grow up like me, right?
Right.
And but they didn't really see what was going on because we've always had like a close relationship. So it was like, yeah, did they miss running around in the big house
yeah.
with their own game room and
Right.
swimming pools and all
Right.
of this? But when you're living in a 2-bedroom hotel with a nice pool and you're eating every day,
So
and
that was the fallback.
yeah, and you're
Okay.
doing all that for them. I think it was more of an experience, right? They were still going to school. My daughter never missed cheerleading. My son never missed football practice from 6 years old, right? And
Right.
so all of the things that they were used to
At that time.
didn't go away,
Right.
right? It was just the exterior things like, oh, what kind of car does dad have this year or this month or whatever it was.
Right.
But that didn't really affect them. And then as they got older, because kind of like them growing up with me, like it's kind of like they've seen everything and I've seen everything in them.
You guys
And
grew
it's
up
like
together, kind of. Yeah.
them understanding, like, we live a good life, but we're not rich, but I'm working hard so that you guys don't have to struggle.
Right.
And now that they're older, they really understand, what it took, and they can now see and they hear and they read, and they're like, wow, I didn't even know we went through all of that.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
it's kind of like, it's kind of cool, for
Yeah,
them to
yeah, no
understand
doubt.
that.
No, that's
But it made them better adults also.
How so?
So that hopefully they don't make, some of the mistakes
Some of
that
the
I
same
made.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Specifically, what any mistake specifically that you hope that they don't make or that you've trained them out of?
You know, uh, when you're an entrepreneur, I think the biggest mistake any of us make is calculating risk,
Mm.
right? And so you're willing to like go for it all, right?
Right.
And it's like, okay, I'm gonna get it back. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do
Right.
that. But you get a little older, a little wiser. You're like, okay, well, I ain't gonna do that this time.
Right.
And maybe I'll walk away from that opportunity that might sound great,
Yeah.
right? So, when they, got these great ideas and they want to do things, it's like, okay, kind of let's step back and let's
Right.
kind of really think it through and let's like really plan it through. So I think um, that is probably the biggest takeaway. And hopefully that'll help them keep them from making some of the mistakes I made. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well said. Well said. I mean, the fall. Again, we're talking about the rise, the fall, the rise, right? Um. So you go from a mansion essentially to living with your kids in an apartment, right?
right.
All of a sudden, you didn't go through any form of depression. I mean, at that point, again,
Well,
depression and all that kind of
well,
stuff
you
wasn't.
are. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize, that is what you're going through.
Right. Okay.
And I think when you're able to, and I didn't even realize it at the time. I mean, I knew that you had these emotional ups and downs, and
Right.
there were tearful moments, and there were, some moments of joy, but it's like, where do you find that, right? And so one of the things I learned through that whole process is that, like happiness is an emotion, right? It's just like being mad,
Right.
You could be happy today, somebody says something, does something, you all pissed off, right?
Right.
But joy and peace is something that comes from within.
Mm.
And that's something that no one can take from you. And so I was able to find that. And then that's what helped me deal with everything else that I was dealing with, because that was something that nobody could take from me.
Right.
No
Right.
bank, nobody. So, and we built everything back based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Who was around you at the time? I mean, that you could rely on? Did you have friends, other business associates, other entrepreneurs, somebody that you could lean on, family
So
members?
my circle is still to this day. I know a lot of people, and a lot of people know me.
Right.
But my inner circle is very small,
Right.
and so my closest friends are still my closest friends to this day, and that was a big reason why we were able to, and still,
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time together. Our
Yeah.
kids grew up
Yeah.
together, so it was some of those type of things, but. A really good friend of mine, when we were staying in this hotel, I get back, and the lady that was working there kind of became like a little nanny, right?
Oh yeah.
And
Okay.
she was like, yeah, Vic. She was like, Pat came by and he left something for you, and I was like, oh, what's that? And I opened it up, and it was a check.
Man.
And I'm like, so I called him up. I'm like, man, what is this, man? He was like, man, get up out of there, man. Go get you an apartment and rebuild your
And
stuff.
this is Pat.
Pat Sertain.
This is Pat Sertain.
Yeah.
That we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout him out.
So we're like
Damn that.
super
Call him
tight
out.
to this
Appreciate
day.
you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, our families are close. Our kids
I
are
love
super close.
I love it.
And
So
so
get up out of there, man.
having friends like that, and that's just an extreme example, because
Sure.
that kind of turned things around for us. But those type of friends I still got to this day.
Yeah. Listen, Vic, man, I really appreciate your vulnerability, right? Because I think, excuse me, a lot of times with millionaires in our culture, in our society, we talk about the glow up. We talk about the rise, but we're not as easy to talk about the fall. We're not talking about losing millions. We just talk about gaining it and what we do with it when we got it. Nobody wants to talk about losing it. So I appreciate your vulnerability there. Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think our culture only celebrates the wins and doesn't? Because the losses, as you mentioned, that's where all the learning is.
Right.
Why do we not celebrate that?
I don't know. So it's funny, man, because this past 2 weeks ago, we went to Vegas for Pat's birthday, right?
Okay.
And the same like group of friends.
Same
right? So
friends.
we all go out there, and to answer that question, so we went. What Pat wanted for his birthday, he wanted to go to the Jeezy concert, right?
Oh
And,
man, now I'm
bruh,
jealous.
Hey, that concert's undefeated.
Come on now.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh man.
And but Jeezy says it best. He says, "I used to have nothing, and now I got a whole lot of everything."
man.
And I never forgot that, right? So that's kind of my anthem when it comes to
Right.
like getting
Yeah.
through all of that.
Right.
Constantly remember.
You got to remember, you used to have
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
Right. So what's the loss? What are we hiding? Right. Yeah. Right.
I think with a lot of people, they get shameful. They
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
they think that to be honest, like one thing I learned, like nobody really cares, right?
Say that one
You
more
know what I mean? And
time.
nobody cares. Like,
Nobody
right.
cares.
So like, you
Right.
could watch, all these news shows and all
Yes.
of that. And it's
Yes.
more like it's almost like entertainment. Now
It
there are
is.
real issues going on,
But
right? But most people don't care
nobody
because we're
cares.
too busy dealing with our day to day.
Your
Like,
own shit.
what we got going on,
Right.
and it could be something on a big level, something on a small level. Like,
Mhm.
oh,
Right.
you forgot to pack Junior's lunch.
That's it.
That's a big issue. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you call yourself the brokest millionaire, right? That's a powerful statement, contradiction, really, right? Where did that title come from? Is that something that you kind of, what I'm a go on and um, define myself, or is something that somebody gave, whereas when their idea, what prompted the concept of a brokest millionaire?
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier is that, you know, I have no shame
Mm-hmm.
in letting people know that,
Mm-hmm.
that and I always say we build it all back and very successfully, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to when people say the brokest millionaire, okay, so on one hand, you saying you got a lot of money, a lot of
Right.
success. On the
Right.
other hand, you saying you broke.
Right.
But it goes back to what I said about being broke and being broken.
Mm.
And I dig deep into that when I go on tour and when I start talking
You
about
do
this.
speaking
I do.
engagements, right?
And I break that down to what that really means.
Right.
And then from a millionaire perspective, it's not really about money.
Mhm.
It's really about that rise, that fall, that rise, and what are you identifying with that can make you feel like you've reached that level of success or that level of joy and peace that I was talking about that has brought you, from where you were to where you are now. So it was more of that, and it gives me an opportunity to explain it on a platform that people say, what is he talking about?
Right.
And I think that it makes for interesting conversation.
No, it really does. Going back to small circles a little bit, I was listening to my wife in the car. She's a hip hop head like me, thank God. So we in the we in the car and we listening to Fabulous, right? Fabulous got this line. I think the title of the song is like "You Did Me Wrong." That's the hook and the title of the song. But in there, he says something, and he says it's like he would rather be broke bosses than rich teammates. He would rather be broke bosses than rich teammates, right? And you're talking about a friend of yours who's a part of a team, Pastor
Mhm.
Tan, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to, and I'm transitioning into working with other black businesses, black entrepreneurs, and et cetera. Um, After having been through, and maybe having your heart broken is not the right term, but after having been through the rise and then the fall, somebody doing you wrong, what I mean? You didn't really know the person, but it wasn't personal, but somebody doing you wrong. And now you're in a situation where, you're rising again, and there are a lot of other black entrepreneurs, especially. We're challenged, right? We want to be able to work together. But did you ever get cynical? Because did you ever feel like, nah, they don't even want to work with me? They just want to be a boss. Everybody wants to be a boss. Nobody wants to be a part of my team. Did you go through that? And how did that feel processing not having enough people to be a part of your team? Everybody just want to be a boss.
Well, to answer that question is no,
Mm.
because you know you become very selective in who you let in on that inner circle, whether it's professional, whether it's personal,
Right.
and then it comes down to a feeling of need,
Mm.
and value add. Like, do I really need this person?
Right.
What kind of value are they adding to
Right.
the situation, to the business, to my life? Like, and if I can't answer those questions in a positive way, I respectfully decline. I just go about my business
You just move on.
and leave it alone. So, um, that I'm not gonna say never, but I'm very cognizant and cautious about who I let cross that line.
Right, right, right. So you don't feel any added pressure to extend yourself beyond, you have boundaries,
Right.
right? And to keep that circle
I would
small.
much
Is that,
rather.
yeah.
So I say this at the end of my Brokest Millionaire tour.
Mm.
And I saw in the questions that you sent over, so maybe I jumped ahead a little bit, but since we're talking about it, but I think one of the questions you were asking me is like, what is the whole takeaway from this whole
Right,
thing,
right, right, right. Yeah.
And what is my end,
Yeah.
like, goal? How do I want to be
Legacy, really. It's kind of a
right?
legacy question.
And I say this is that most people
Mm-hmm.
will go through their whole life and never be remembered other than their immediate family and friends
Mm-hmm.
because they've never done anything to help anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do things to help other people,
That's right.
they will tell your story in perpetuity, and
Absolutely.
you'll never be forgotten.
You'll never be forgotten.
And I live my life like that.
Amen. No, I appreciate that. No, I'm of the same mindset. It's kind of why I'm doing this now, right? To build that legacy. So no, coming from the streets, Columbus, Ohio, right?
Correct.
Coming from the streets. No, remember the scene from Dead Presidents when Lorenz Tate goes back to the, was it a pool hall?
The pool. I just watched that the other
Did
night.
you just watch that the
Yeah.
other day? And man, I hear the big payback playing, right? In that scene. And that look on his face, right? He had went to the military, came home, and
Right.
they
I
trying
just
to
watched that. It's
they
funny.
trying to clown my man. Did you ever get a sense of, you know what I mean? All the people that wasn't there for me,
No.
I'm a
Um,
show them.
no, never.
Never.
You never want to do anything, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
to say I told you so,
Right.
or I'm
Right.
the one that made it,
Mhm.
or this, that, and the other. You do it for yourself. And I never forget one time going home and ran into one of my guys that I grew up with, and we were really good friends, and kind of stopped talking, and uh, some of the guys would act a little different.
Right.
And so one time, I drove by his house, and I'm like, man, let's go for a ride, whatever.
Right.
So pick him up, and we, doing like old scooters,
Old school.
rolling,
Yeah, man.
talking. And he's like, you know what? And everybody called me Type N. He was like, you know what, Ty? He's like, man, I owe you an apology. And I'm like, for what? And he was like, when you left, man, he said, we felt like you owed us something. Like the neighborhood felt like you owed us.
Mm-hmm.
And that you changed and
Right.
this and that. And he was like, but really, he said, you did change. And he said, you should have changed. He said, because look at us. We doing the same old shit.
Same shit.
Right? And he was like, so we actually proud of you, bro. And he was like, you got up out of here, man, and we still here doing nothing.
Right.
And
Great.
and I didn't even need that confirmation.
No.
Right? I think he needed it.
He needed to get
Right.
that out. Right.
And I was receptive of it.
Right.
And I was like, hey man, I ain't never changing. I'm the same person, but that doesn't mean I don't want to change my environment.
Right.
And
Right.
change the circumstances around me. So
Yeah.
that gotta go. I'm out of here. You know what I
I'm
mean?
out of here.
So that was that. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can definitely relate. Growing up, in Baltimore, I was one of those kids, right? The neighborhood could swallow you up, but I always went the other way. I mean, if you told me, yo, go to this party, you don't want to miss it. Everybody gonna be there. I'm talking about everybody. When the moment you said everybody gonna be there was the moment I said I ain't going
Right.
to myself.
Right.
Because I know it's people there that don't fuck with me, and I don't fuck with them either.
Right.
So I'm probably not going to go. I'm probably going to go my own route. I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to go where nobody else is going. Even if there's nobody there that looks like me, that's where I'm going.
Right.
I'm not going with the crowd. And so I don't get a chance to talk to the old neighborhood as much. Just my man Dana, shout him out. But yeah, I can relate, to that feeling of like, I can't do what y'all doing. I'm just not that guy. I don't follow very well.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Which is a good thing.
Right.
But
No.
sometimes it can be, a bit challenging.
Right.
Because you feel like you're leaving people behind sometimes, or they feel like you're leaving them behind. They feel like you changed. You're too good for them. That kind of thing comes out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a reader. I found that out about you as
Yes.
well. You're a reader. Is there a book or a group of books that inspired your thoughts about leadership, about money, about investing? Is there someone or something or some book that somebody out there who's watching this right now can go out and get and say, you know what, Victor George did it. I need to pick this up.
From a business perspective, one of the ones that really still I've probably read I don't know how many times is The Tipping Point.
Oh,
Right.
come on, man.
Yeah, so
Come on, Vic. That's like my favorite.
Right,
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
exactly.
Go ahead, talk. I'm sorry. To cut you off.
so so you already know, but and I'm sure a lot of people do, but I encourage people, especially as entrepreneurs and believers and things like that, to read that book. But when it comes to like leadership, I was in the airport one time years ago, and I'm just looking through, and I'm you know see this book is called Mafia Manager, right?
Mm,
And I'm half Italian, so I was
okay.
like, that's interesting. What is
Interesting.
that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And what it was, and what it is, because I've read that book several times, and it's a short read, is that it was showing how the mob runs their organization like a business,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And so I found that really interesting. Not the stuff you see on TV
Right,
and
right,
all
right.
the killing and all
Gotcha.
this,
Uh-huh.
but real corporate type business structure,
Structure.
right?
Yeah.
And I said, wow, you know what? And this was after that whole debacle, right?
Right.
And so one of the things that it was about was trust,
Mm-hmm. See?
right? And
Theme.
how their inner circle is so small,
Small.
right? And that's, if you think about what we were talking about
Literally.
earlier, it kind of resonates, right? And
Right.
so, just for the record, I'm not in the mob, but I'm just saying that
Clear
it
that
was
up.
a very, very, very interesting read
Yeah.
on structure,
Yeah.
you know. So
Gotcha.
those are probably two that stick out a lot. I mean, I've read several
Yeah, yeah,
books, but yeah, those two.
Mafia Manager and The Tipping Point. Well, I'm a huge fan of The Tipping Point. I did a podcast where I had a guest on it. We talked about The Tipping Point kind of exclusively. Um, Alcohol, man. I mean, and the black man in alcohol. I mean, it's profitable, I would imagine, but it's rare for somebody of the black community to be successful at it, especially from a distribution standpoint. I mean, you're distributing out there. Alcohol has a way of making people feel comfortable. People get loose. You know what I mean, drink champs, shout them out. They got a whole
Oh
podcast
yeah,
on.
yeah.
You know what I mean, and they get to drinking and shit start coming out. You know what I
Right,
mean,
right,
stuff you
right.
might not have found out otherwise unless you get to drinking. Um, but as a black man going into a business like that, I'm sure there were still barriers. What barriers are there to success in the spirits industry that if anybody who's thinking about getting into it might want to know, especially coming from a black man's perspective?
Well, you said the number one thing is distribution,
Hmm.
and getting your distributors
So you can
to.
make it all you
Yeah,
want.
anybody can do that. I mean, there's several brands out there that
Yeah.
just some are good, some are not good, but distribution, no matter how big or small it is probably the most important,
Mm.
because where are people going to get it at,
Where are they going to get
right?
it? Right.
And so getting a distributor, again, big or small,
Right.
that believes in what you got going on,
Mm.
because with the way the laws are in America is that once you sell to a distributor, they have to pay you, right? And so they're very hesitant to bring on things that may or may not work. Like
Right.
they don't want to get stuck
Got it.
with it.
They're going to get stuck with
Right.
it. Right.
So that's probably the biggest barrier. And then I would say the financial aspect,
Okay.
access to capital.
Access to capital.
That's always a challenge for black business owners.
Right.
And so having those relationships and having a clearly thought out plan,
Hmm.
and where you can put some of the other key components together, from a management perspective, distribution perspective, all these things to show that you have a path to running a real business,
Mm.
right? It may be an idea, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Right?
You got to start somewhere.
Because but once you show that you really have something, then the next step, the next transformation is, okay, now I got a real business. I got a real company that we can build on. How do we take this to the next level?
Right.
And trying to use that to get some access to capital.
Right. Access to capital is always a challenge. Um, I want to. I don't want to shift away from that though. Access to capital. So how did you get access to capital?
One of the things that I've always done is I make my own money, right?
Talk that talk.
So there's being able to get involved in other things that make you money,
Mhm.
and then reinvesting in yourself. Like I said, I don't live lavish. I don't think I have bad habits.
Right.
I might like to sip a little Fort Mose, but
Hey, I'm with you there. Give me an old fashioned any day,
yeah,
baby.
but really investing in yourself and not wanting to get too big too fast. I think that's a very common mistake, especially with black brands.
Too big, too fast.
They get too big too fast, and want to so quick to put the S on the chest, like, oh, I'm the biggest, and we're the largest ever, and we're this and we're that,
What did Fabulous say?
and then
Broke boss.
yeah, and
Right.
then then when it all comes tumbling down and the curtains are pulled back, you got to ask yourself like, oh, what's really going on, right?
Right.
And so I try not to do that, and then just really be strategic in how we leverage what we got.
Right. Real be mafia manager. Being strategic. Structure. Right. It's
Very
good.
important.
Very, very important. Um, on the podcast, I shouldn't say on the podcast, in my own personal life, I think of the butterfly as just fascinating. Butterfly is just fascinating because it lives and it dies. Got a couple lives, right? The larva, right? Caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly. I mean, each one of those is a different life of the same insect, which is phenomenal to me. So even when I post, I put the emoji of a butterfly in there. And if anybody's wondering like why that is, I just explain why. Because I'm fascinated by the butterfly. That's what alchemy represents to me, that change, right? So what is it about you, right? You're a former athlete, you're a musician, rapper, right? You've invested in hotels and real estate, and now distillery, right? What part of you had to die for the man that we see living here right now?
I don't I don't I don't really think that any part of me had to die. I think that some of the ideas and convictions
Mm.
and some of my thought processes,
Okay.
had to be put to rest.
Okay.
Um, More so than myself as a
Right.
person,
Right.
or yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I'm not
That
taking it
idea.
any
Yeah.
kind of way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That it's like they say, like, a big part of you is who you associate with,
Mm.
right? So that part of me had to move on, and sometimes that's painful, right? To
Right.
have people that
Right.
you were close to that aren't in your best interest, right? And so that was a big part of what I had to let go,
Right.
and then also, um, you know, understanding that success is not measured by like your material gains.
One more time.
And
Success is
it's not
not.
measured by that.
Okay.
Success is when opportunity meets preparation,
One more
right?
time. Success.
So
Opportunity meets preparation. This is
and
the ideology
right,
that had to die.
right,
Right.
and the things that that you're again able to do is a reward for
Mhm.
doing what you do and being good at it.
Right.
That's it.
That's
So
it.
those are the things that I would say died, and hopefully made me just a better all around person.
Right.
Trying to just do better myself.
Right.
All
Right.
all the way around.
Right. As an entrepreneur, I mean, there's the rational mind and then there's the emotional mind as well, as we as humans all have. Were there ever times where you thought, you know, the 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 rational mind kind of kicks in, maybe the depression, right, kicks in and you said, you know what, this ain't worth it. I'm losing money, I'm bleeding money out. This ain't worth it. I'm gonna quit and go back. I'm gonna go finish and get a master's degree and go do something else. Were there ever times like that where you felt like this ain't worth it? I'm gonna quit.
No, I've never quit anything in my life. So, but I understand the question of like, when is enough enough? Like, do you see this working? And
Right.
and that's when you gotta understand, how to pivot in a situation. And I've been very fortunate that most businesses, almost most that I've ever gotten into, I was able to sell
Oh, okay.
successfully,
Okay. Okay.
right? And
Okay.
so it's understanding that exit
The
strategy,
exit strategy, that's
right?
part of the
And I've
strategy.
never
Okay.
fallen in love with any business so much that I don't want to let it go. I think that's the mistake.
Okay.
That
Well
may
said.
be kind of what you were alluding
Yes,
to.
sir.
And no, I've never been in that situation. Somebody
Right.
comes along and says, "Hey, man," and I might be thinking like this isn't going as fast as I wanted to,
Mhm.
or some of the opportunities didn't come as fast as I thought they would,
Right.
and it's time to go. It's time to go.
Time to
That
go.
don't mean
Time to
I
go.
quit. I got paid
Right.
in full.
Get paying for it ain't there for ain't no joke.
Right,
I ain't no
right.
joke. See what I did right there? I ain't no joke. Y'all get that later. But no, well said. I appreciate you breaking that down for us. Um, here you are, right? Victor George Harvey. Talk to Todd Payne, right? Talk to Todd Payne, right? That's nephew you unk, right? In today's vernacular. right? What is something that Taipan would be proud of in the man that you become? And what's something that Unc would tell Taipan, yo, watch out for this?
It's kind of one and the same. It goes
Mm,
right back to uh, the rise, the fall, the rise. It's
right.
like stay in the course is
Stay the
really
course.
the most important thing because you know, and believing that tomorrow's gonna come,
Mm,
and it's like you don't let the lowest of your lows put you in a situation where you can never come back up,
mm-hmm.
right? And I keep going back to this broke thing. There's a difference between being broke and being broken.
Broke in.
And young Taipan never allowed himself to be broken.
Mm,
Amongst all the things that
all
he's
that shit.
seen
Yeah.
and all the street level stuff, never ever went down that path, right?
Right. Right.
And then the older Taipan, who was on the whole business thing, was the same thing. And so it's like you bringing the young one up saying, hey, bro, I got you up out of the street. You
Right.
never went that way.
Right.
I'm proud of you. This puts you in a situation to handle what you're dealing with as a grown man.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. I love it. I love it. Let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. I want to talk about what's next. So the purchase of you bought, was it Palm Springs?
Palm Beach Distillery.
Palm
Yeah.
Beach Distillery. You outgrew that one.
Correct.
Right. So now that you've outgrown that one, what's next for Fort Mose? What's next for VG Spirits?
So, like I said, we're working on this one. Hopefully, we'll be breaking ground next month on this
Breaking
one.
ground on
I've said it a few times, but we're at the 99-yard line now.
and
not
breaking
the
ground.
90.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and that. So hopefully we'll get that done, and then it'll be ready next year. But it's again.
What's the vision for that?
So that's what we create, man. We come up with so for example, this caramel vodka we have, that's on fire right now.
Yeah.
And that was my daughter's idea. And that was actually created at our own distillery. And now it's in the market, it's nationwide and things like that. We are coming out with all new packaging in the next couple of months. But now we're getting into what's called the ready to drink cocktails, the things in the cans. So that's our next big release.
Nice.
That's going to be under the Wowie brand, which is owned by us. So that's going to be exciting. And then at that point, just building those and doing the things that we're doing. My daughter, she comes up with something cool.
Yeah.
My son is a chef, professional chef.
Wow.
International chef.
Keep it in the family. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so the restaurant that's going in our building, that'll be his first restaurant.
So the building that's going to be broken ground on is going to have a restaurant
have a
as well as a distillery.
Yeah, it'll have a very nice high-end restaurant.
Wow.
So that'll be his. And then across the street, I'm going to build the first Victor George Hotel. And
Back to hotels.
That's always been my passion.
Back to
man.
hotels.
And that'll probably be, then from there, who knows? That's
Right.
that's that exit strategy, I guess. I don't know.
You don't know.
We'll figure it all out. But yeah,
Right.
that's kind of that's it, man.
So how did you go about? I mean, again, I want to wrap this up, but at the same time, it's just interesting, because access to capital, right? You, did you go through, and I think is it called a CRA, community not redevelopment, community?
Yeah,
How was
so
that?
We worked.
How
with
did that help?
Yes, for the property on Sistrunk, we did partner up with the CRA over there. That's a great thing what they're doing over there.
So that's a recommendation you would give somebody who's looking to build.
Yeah, if they're trying to do something in the areas that are CRA areas, and there's CRAs in multiple cities.
Okay.
I would highly suggest explore that and see how that could form a successful partnership.
Okay.
So yeah, we were able to get that done.
Right. And was there a building already there, or is it, again something?
No, it's all vacant land. I
All
started investing over there years ago, just buying the land, seeing the vision.
Okay.
Working with the city commissioners and things like that, and understanding their vision for the neighborhood and stuff like that, and just becoming part of the community.
Okay. So I just want to step back, making sure that you have a relationship wherever you are with the city commission to be able to position yourself to get into the CRA when an opportunity does arise is something that you would recommend as well.
100%. I mean, the city has a plan, and it's just doing your research,
Right.
And seeing how you can become part of that.
Right. All right. Very good. Very good. See, Alchemist Lounge, man, it's built on the idea of transformation, turning hardships into wisdom. Somebody watching this interview feels like they're in their fall right now. They had to rise and they're in their fall. What's one thing, one truth that you would want them to hold on to moving forward?
That you have to believe that tomorrow's gonna come.
Tomorrow's gonna come.
That's it.
Tomorrow's gonna come, and it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. All right, there you have it, Victor George Harvey, man. It's been a pleasure, man. I
Hey,
appreciate you
likewise,
doing this,
man.
man.
Yeah. I'm proud of you, man. This is some nice stuff.
Thank you.
And shout out to the studio. This is dope. It's next level. So yeah, I'm
Thank
very
you.
impressed all the way around.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, look, man. I mean, one more question that I have. You know, will you only develop at the distillery, Victor George, or will you be open to developing other people's spirit brands as
So
well? I'm asking for a friend.
no, and to answer that question, and that's very important, is that so one of the things that we wanted to do to give back to the community is that we will have distilling classes
Okay.
on multiple levels
Okay.
to teach other people, especially young people, and especially people in the community that have a aspiration to get into the spirits business,
Love it.
how they can create. And so they would be able to create their own products at our distillery.
Love it.
And then, show them how to maybe take it to market. And you never know what I say earlier, what's the next big thing?
What's the next big thing?
You never know.
What's the next big thing? Look, this is the Alchemist Lounge. A lounge has drink in it, man. I'm welcoming a sponsorship. I always shoot my shot during these.
All right. I got you.
We can affiliate. We can work together. But listen, man, for those of you out there, my fellow alchemists, look, keep transmuting, man. Keep building. Keep transforming that lead into gold. It's the Alchemist Lounge. We'll see you next time. Peace.